When I started getting fit, um, and especially so when I started doing martial arts, when I started fighting, um, I really felt my fear go away. I really thought I became much more confident, especially with getting fit, but also with fighting as well. And I really thought I had, in doing those things, killed much of my fear about things in general. Because I would often, feared people, feared uncomfortable situations, feared being weak, feared being taken advantage of socially, or whatever, things like that. And a lot of that went away when I did those things. But it left me with other things that were more underlying fears that I had. Getting fit and learning to fight, those are great. And they helped me become more assertive because I was less afraid in the physical domain, let's say. But I've been dealing with in the last few years, let's say, when did I get in shape? That would have been when I was 16 or 17. And then I started fighting like a year ago, so not that long. I've had this time to dwell on these fears that are a little bit more underlying, a little bit deeper. And it's always, fears are an uncomfortable thing to talk about. But I think to address them to deal with them properly means addressing them and giving them their due. So that's what I'm going to talk about with you a little bit today, about fear and about dealing with fear, about feeling fear. One of the things that's been sitting on my mind a lot, especially in the last, I don't know, 12 weeks, something like that, last like semester or two of college courses here, I've been dealing with is the fear of missing out. And I think that's a very common one for people my age. But it's worth talking about because I'm someone, it's a weird thing to talk about, the fear of missing out for me, because I'm someone who is very introverted by nature. And oftentimes, especially when I was in high school and things like that, I was, when I was younger, I felt more the fear of being included than the fear of missing out, people trying to include me in things and going out places and doing things, having to be in those social situations, was, I had more fear about that than the fear of missing out on those things. Although it was still present then, obviously. When I saw my friends go out and like doing something fun, it was like, of course, I felt some fear about missing out on good experiences and stuff like that. But it was much less pronounced than it is now for me, I think. It's a weird thing to deal with because it feels like since I've become more physically able and competent, this fear has only grown stronger. And I think it's largely surrounding the college experience. So let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about the college experience. Towards the end of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I'm reasonably smart and I have a lot of things that I'm moderately good at. And there are a lot of paths I could take, but I had no idea what I wanted to do with myself. And there were very few things of substance that I was really passionate about. So that, not that I could turn into like an actual meaningful career, right? So no idea what I wanted to do. So I decided I would, as I was on the latter half of high school, I sort of fell in love with exercise and fitness and all of that stuff. So I decided I would get my personal training certification, right? That would give me a path. Is it the best path? Is it, I don't know, but it was what was right in front of me. And it seemed like something I was passionate about. So it was the best plan I had. So that's what I did. And then after I got that through the summer, I also signed up for community college because that and that's been good. It's given a lot of great benefits. I can still live at home. I can still work. It's relatively flexible with scheduling, and I can do a lot of stuff online. I have a lot of time to work on stuff like this, like other projects outside of school. And obviously I can still make plenty of money while I'm in school, and I can, and obviously the cost, that's a huge thing with community college. Obviously the cost is not ridiculous like most universities. And that was, again, was it the best thing? I don't know, but it was the thing that was right in front of me. So it's what I did. But with community college, you don't get the same experience you would get at your typical 4-year school. And that's to be expected, right? But the community aspect, which is actually a huge part of the college experience and this period of your life, 18 to 22, the social aspect is huge. Most people meet like their closest friends during this period of their life when they're in college. A lot of people will say, "Oh, just go to community college because it's so much cheaper and you're still getting the education." And it's like, yeah, but that's only half the reason people go to school, right? That's only half the reason. A lot of people go to school because it gives you for 4 years, it gives you a title, gives you a role in society. You're a student. And it's just generally accepted that that's an okay thing for you to do. And it gives you time to figure out what you want to do from there. And in part of that role as a student, you get to meet people and go to parties and do all those kinds of things. You get the experience of living outside of your childhood home for the first time. There's all sorts of things that come along with that, but that portion is not there with community college. So you are missing out on a lot. And I've been dealing with that a lot in the last couple months. And it's been a struggle, like I said, because the fear of missing out has often eluded me throughout my life because I'm so introverted and it doesn't bother me as much. But I've really felt in the last few months like I've been seriously afraid that I am missing out on going to parties and even just doing stupid things, getting drunk and stuff like that. And it's like, and even as I'm saying that, like my brain is generating a million reasons why I wouldn't want to do that anyway. But that's not what this video is for. We're just going to talk about the fear. I'm not trying to generate solutions. And I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to, because I know logically in my head, right, that like I don't drink anyway. I'm an athlete. I'm not gonna do that. It's not worthwhile to me. But still, just going out and being with people, like I don't have that. Like my life is very lonely, and maybe that's the root fear of what I'm missing there, is that I'm actually afraid of being alone rather than the fear of missing out on the college experience. That's sort of a proxy fear, I guess you could say. But still, it's just like, even now, like so many people grow old and they hold a lot of those memories very fondly. And I'm afraid that I won't have that, I think. But yeah, that for sure has been weighing on me. I don't know what the clear answer is, because my life is very busy. I've got lots of responsibilities to take care of. I have 2 jobs and I'm a full-time student. I'm looking for a 3rd job, trying to advance my career, trying to do all these things, making these videos, being an athlete, staying in shape. There's so many things I'm trying to do, and even if I would go out and socialize and stuff these days, I just don't have the time for it. And that's pretty brutal, man. Like some days the loneliness really does get you. But again, I've dwelled more on specifically loneliness and the fear of that in another video on this channel, and you can go I'll probably revisit that topic at some point relatively soon. We'll see. But you can go watch that if you want to hear more of my thoughts on that, because I want to talk about some other things other than loneliness and the fear of missing out and that stuff. Another thing I'm dealing with is just straight up self-doubt, and this is something that has always been with me for sure. I have always been someone who is very self-conscious and low in self-esteem. I'll tell you this, yesterday was kickboxing practice for me. So I haven't been able to go Tuesday nights, which is typically your higher level class, where we do a lot of sparring and stuff like that. I haven't been able to go to that for a month because of school. So, but this is spring break, so I was able to go yesterday. And just sitting around yesterday in the house and whatever else I was doing, the fear was just lingering over me of, oh, I'm going to go to the gym and get my ass kicked, and to some degree that can be a good thing when you're talking about martial arts and combat sports and stuff. But the fear was just weighing on me all day. And even when I pulled into the parking lot, I sat in my car for like 15 minutes just trying to get my mind ready. And eventually I did. And I was just experiencing this profound self-doubt. Like some days, and some days more than others, like I really just don't have any self-belief at all. And I don't know that there's a clear answer to that, because I think just my personality wise, I'm very prone to think that way. I'm very prone to think very little of myself. But anyway, I went into the gym yesterday, and I did really well in sparring. Like you would not think I hadn't been in a month, because I was really sharp. I was landing all sorts of good shots. I only got hit even a few times. I was doing really well. So yeah, I don't know what to say about that. A lot of the times, I guess my self-doubt is not accurate to my existence and my own reality. It's just my mind. I get in my head about these things, I suppose. And I was thinking, I'm thinking about taking my amateur debut in kickboxing or Muay Thai in September. And I was just thinking to myself, like, man, if my mentality is where it is right now, and I'm still experiencing these levels of self-doubt, like I have been for the past, say, couple months, like I'm just not going to be there. Like I'm not going to be, if that fight turns into a dogfight, I will fall apart because I don't believe in myself, and that's going to be problematic, So I was thinking about this, and I was like, well, what times in my life have I believed in myself, and what can I do to remedy that? And I was thinking back to when I started to get in shape initially, when I started getting fit. I was waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go run, working out 2-3 times a day. And I was like, then I believed in myself. And I was like, well, why then? What about that? What about that effort? What about that time in my life made me believe in myself, made me believe I was capable of doing things? Self-efficacy, I believe, would be the fancy term for that. Your own self-belief that you're capable of doing things. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, what could that be? And I was like, all right, well, what were you doing when you were doing those things? And I was like, well, I'm putting in massive amounts of effort, like pushing myself to the upper limit to prove, one, that I can go there, and two, seeing results from it. So I think that's the blueprint. Oh, there's a great quote that's, was that David Goggins, I think? Self-belief is not shouting affirmations in the mirror. It's having a stack of evidence that says exactly who you say you are, right? So that's the name of the game, I think, with self-belief and self-doubt, is you need to know exactly who you say you are. And you need to be the kind of person that is prepared for the path that you've set out in front of you, right? Um, so you need to become that person. You need to believe you're that person. So how do you do that? You put the effort in. You put the effort in. And I guess maybe I've been short on that in the last few weeks, because I think my self-doubt revolves around a handful of things. Some of them are things like fighting and stuff like I was just talking about, but a lot of them are deeper. They're about career. They're the fear of the inability to provide for myself, or provide for a wife and kids. That terrifies me. That I wouldn't be able to do that. So I think the answer to that is putting the utmost effort forward in becoming the kind of person that can do those things, that can provide for wife and kids, that can be competent when things get tough, and doing the kind of things that make you become that person, but also in doing that, you will start to believe that you are that kind of person, because the evidence will pile up. Right? The more you put in, the more you get out. The more practice you have in, the more evidence that builds up that you are the kind of person you're working to become, right? So I think that's the answer to self-doubt. And I guess I've been short on that in the past few weeks. That's why I've been feeling that fear. So, yeah. Like I said, another fear I've been dealing with is the inability to provide for myself, provide for a wife and kids. And I think some of that stems from just a fear of not being enough. The fear of being, but also the fear of being, I think, unlovable fundamentally. That one scares me too, because I think as a man, much of my value in the regards to family especially is what can I provide, and what can I provide. And I think it's a blunt way of saying it, but I think there is some truth in that statement, because obviously we think about that as, as a man, what can you provide? We think of that as monetary. What can you put food on the table, right? And that's part of it. But it's not just that. We're not talking about providing just by financial means. We're also talking about providing leadership, providing spiritual guidance, providing, everything that you have that you can give back to the world, providing everything. And I think self-doubt is obviously part of that for me, because I doubt that I can be that kind of man, that I can be that kind of person that can provide. And I think that is because I have that self-doubt in that domain. I fear I will not be able to be loved, or I fear I won't be worthy of love, of a partner, or of a family. So I think the next steps for me for that are going to be just working really hard towards career and proving that I can be the kind of man that can provide, right? And I think I've worked on providing in other ways. Like I think I've become capable of, leadership and spiritual guidance, and I'm knowledgeable, and I've tried to become wise. And I think in many of those ways, I have become a man that can provide, but still missing that financial aspect of being able to provide for like a family, a wife and kids. I think that scares me, and that leads me to believe that I would be not worthy of love because I can't do those things. So I need to work hard to become that, and that fear will go away. And I think I hold myself to an unreasonable standard sometimes. Like, I kind of expect excellence as the bare minimum for myself. And that's not always healthy. it drives me to do great things sometimes, but it also is unhealthy because like I'm like, oh well, if I'm you shouldn't even have a girlfriend, right? Because you're not a millionaire yet, you know. And I think to some degree it's putting the cart before the horse there. Um, but you know, it's like I can't expect that level of success from myself, even though I might want to. And that leads into more discussions about loneliness and how I think about relationships and stuff like that. But well, we can talk about that a little bit. I came across, I think, a clip from a podcast the other day, and I thought this was interesting. I wasn't planning on talking about this at all, so my thoughts might be a little scrambled here. But I think it's interesting. I saw a clip of a lady on a podcast who was talking about, and the only reason I remember this is because it resonated with other thoughts I had had previously, and I think I talked about them when I did my video on loneliness a little bit. So I think that's why this spoke to me. She said most women in the modern day are looking for a man, you know, who already makes six figures, who is already, you know, 6'6" and 220 pounds of muscle, and you know, already is ready to provide and protect and do everything that they're looking for. But a lot of those women are losing out. They're missing out on the men who have the drive and have the ambition to go out there and do those things and go out and build their kingdom, but just haven't gotten there yet. So, and the thing is about that if that man who is waiting to look for women until he finishes building his kingdom, if he already has the woman he's looking for at his side, he will go out and build a kingdom that is 10 times bigger than the one he had originally set out for. And man, that's just an interesting idea, and I don't know what to make of it exactly, because I'm not sure that there's a specific right answer or right message to draw from that. You know, the incel types will be like, oh, these women, they just want me to be, you know, 6'4", blue eyes, guy in finance, you know, and it's just like, okay, buddy, you know, that wasn't the point. But it's so interesting because I don't think it's wrong for women to look for men who are competent and capable, but also, you know, what do we do about that? Like, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that, because it's like, it's not necessary. It's a good thing for women to look for those qualities in men, but there are men who are building those virtues and qualities within themselves, but just haven't gotten there yet and haven't had the success yet, you know. It's waiting to happen. I don't know that there's anyone necessarily at fault, because it's extremely hard for women to find those kinds of men, because they blend in with everyone else. But also, I don't think it's men who are at fault for wanting to be able to provide first, and then so that then they can have the woman they're looking for, right? So it's like no one's at fault, but there's still like a better outcome that could be had here if, you know, the woman could find, and you know, and it's not, you know, it's not on the men either for not seeking out that woman prior, because they're trying to build their kingdom first because they want to be able to provide and protect. They probably have the same kind of fears that I do. And man, I don't know what the answer is there. The theoretical best outcome would be that man is aiming upwards, woman is aiming upwards. Man has not had the success yet. Woman is looking for a good partner, and then their paths sort of just collide, right? And then they can build a great kingdom together. But yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about that more. we can move on. That was very much off topic anyway. So another fear I've been dealing with, again, sort of pertaining to these other ones, is the fear of failure. For sure, the fear of failure. Oh my word. I mean, I think everyone deals with that to some extent, but again, I think it stems from this fear of ultimately not being enough and not being able to provide and not being able to give what I have to the world. The fear of falling short. And I don't know that there's a specific remedy for that. Yeah, the fear of being unable to enact change and failing to set the world straight. That's a fear that I have, and that's wordy, obviously, but what I mean is people, including myself, of course, have this capacity to see things and to see in what ways the world is, say, shifting off of its proper axis. And I have a lot of thoughts about various places in which the world is off course. And again, I guess this again plays off of the fear of failure, but it's a little more specific. Is that like the idea of me, through any number of ways, failing to offer what I have to the world and to be able to set right what I can. Like if I fail to do those things, if I fail to bring out all of the potential that is within me, everything that I am capable of, and failing to set the world straight because I didn't do that, is horrifying to me. And it leads me to do rash things at times, like push myself too hard, because I fear that I might leave a single drop in the bucket, and that would be just enough to set things right, you know? I think it's just one of those things that one of these kind of fears can be sort of countered with the Stoic school of thought, right? The whole idea of, it's like, yeah, well, if you gave everything you had, then why worry about it? You did what you could, so there's no reason to worry beyond that. And I think that's probably the right way of thinking about it. But yeah, I do fear that. I fear that I won't reach my potential. I fear that I won't be able to bring out everything that I can for myself. You know, I think our capacity and our potential is something that is, in a way, almost fundamentally limitless, in a sense. Not limitless as in like, well, you can, become the best in the world at everything. Obviously, that's not true. I'll never be Einstein. I'll never be, Nikola Tesla. I'll never be, an elite mathematician. I'll never be Usain Bolt. And that's fine. That's not the right way of thinking about it. I wonder if I can articulate what I'm thinking about here. I think if I brought everything out that I could, all of the capability that I have within myself, and I was able to build the right connections, then it would be enough. It would be enough to set the world straight. So it's like I feel the weight of the world on my shoulders all of the time. And I think that's something that's kind of followed me forever, for at least a really long time. It's like I can sense when there are things that I ought to have done but didn't. And that weighs on me because I know I can never get those back. But yeah, it's the fear of never reaching that and never being able to set things right. And I guess ultimately it's a fear of God. And I think that I don't want to dwell too much on the fear of God, because that, again, that could be a whole video in and of itself. That's a complex topic. But people don't understand what that means when they first encounter Christianity or the Bible or whatever, and they read that, you should have the fear of God. It's like, why is this, our loving creator? Why should we be afraid of him? But the more you come to understand it, the more you realize what that means. It's like, once you understand the depths of your own sin, once you understand the distance between yourself and the standard that God holds you to, and once you understand the power and the goodness that God holds and is, you understand the fear of God. Because the reality is that I should have been smited off the earth 50,000 times by now. But I'm not. So, I think a lot of my fears ultimately stem from the fear of God. The fear of not being enough, the fear of being unlovable, the fear of not reaching my potential, the fear of missing out on things I should be doing or experiences that I should be getting, the fear of not being able to provide. All of that is ultimately derivative of the fear of God, right? Because the fear of God is ultimately you falling short of the standard that God has for you. And the standard for your actions and the standard for what you ought to do. And yeah, I think enough said on that part. I'm not going to expand too much on that again, because that could be its own whole video, and this video has already gone a real long time. Anyway, I hope this has been enjoyable for you. I wanted to make this because I know a lot of people, especially a lot of young men, fear the same things that I do. And I think addressing them is not only helpful for me, obviously, but hopefully can also be helpful for you. So I appreciate you sticking around and watching if you still are. And I hope this video can be a blessing to you. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And I pray for all of you. I pray blessings upon you. And I will see you next week. Bye.